Hey, Colabcoaching here again to share some wise words of wisdom for the week. Week number 3 of the Trust series. Week number 3. So excited to get into this week, so I don't want to waste any time. The question slash thought I have for you this week is, why is trust so important in relationships? Why is trust so important in relationships? Now, we talked about trust in Langston week 1 and week 2, but this week I wanted to dig a little bit deeper and talk about exactly, well, why? Why is trust so important? You know, things that we don't do or things that we don't practice, we don't place value in. And that's very important with trust. We tend to, as humans, we tend to devalue trust if we just don't trust people. There are people in this world that just don't trust people. And because they don't trust, they are not vulnerable at the right times, at the right moments when they need to be vulnerable. And I made a whole series about vulnerability, but or if I did it, I will. but I think the biggest thing about being vulnerable is that it allows you to not keep a wall up when you do not need to keep the wall up, especially when you're in a relationship. If you decided to be in a relationship with someone, if you decided to be open and honest with that person, that is when you're able to trust and give your trust. As I said, you give your trust to people. But if you are not vulnerable, if you choose not to trust, then it will become difficult, and then you won't be able to have that value in your relationships. Now let's break this down even more. Let's put an example. I'm a big proponent of building a foundation in relationships. If you choose not to trust someone, that foundation will easily crumble when something happens that you don't expect or anticipate. For example, maybe your significant other did something you didn't like, or your significant other decided to act in a way that you didn't like, or conversation got a little heated and some things were said. If you don't trust that person, you can't forgive that person. You can't reconcile with that person. You can't move forward with that person when something bad happens. Bad things are going to happen in relationships. Disagreements are going to happen in relationships. Miscommunication is going to happen in relationships. Disconnection will happen in relationships. But the most important thing about it is reconnecting when there is disconnection. I'm a big proponent of conversations. So if you are not having that conversation about being vulnerable or being vulnerable in your conversations, trust is not going to be there. You may say that you give trust. You may say that you are trusting, but in reality, your actions are saying something different. You may be holding back more. You may be hesitant to say certain things. You may not want to express yourself when you feel in your heart, your mind, your spirit to express yourself. And you may look at your significant other in a different way. You might side eye them. You might keep them a little bit at a distance. You may not even fully speak truth to them. You may not be completely honest with them. You only show or give a portion of your honesty. And that's how relationships end. That's how relationships start very big, very exaggerated, very happy, but then they die out very quickly. And that's why I see in a lot of relationships these days, not to say that there are other factors that cause relationships to end, but one main factor that I see is that there's a lack of trust, or trust was quote unquote broken. But I want to ask you this: did you actually establish trust in the first place? Trust is something that you give over time. As I said before in the previous video, there are people. There are people who feel like they meet someone and they're able to trust them completely, and it may be successful. I'm not going to say it is. It may be successful. But for me, what I've seen in my experience is that trust takes time. Things that are cultivated over time, things that are seasoned over time, have more substance. And that's what you want in your relationships. You want to have substance in your relationships. You don't want to just say that you started a relationship, it ended, on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one. It not only makes your relationships not, what's the word I'm thinking of, not have value, but it also makes you look kind of crazy because you're jumping into our relationships and you're not getting any substance out of it. You're not getting any progression. You're not getting any milestones completed. Maybe taking the relationship to the next level, getting married, things of that nature. Or if you're in the marriage, Your relationship is becoming stagnant, stale, nothing fruitful has been growing from it. I want you to really think about why you decide not to trust. Why you decide not to trust the people that you quote unquote love, the people that you quote unquote care about. And this could be family members, this could be friends, this could be significant others. The biggest thing that I had to deal with for myself is that, well, what does trust mean for me? Do I trust myself? And then, as I always say, you have to trust yourself first. Everything starts with you. You are the root of your foundation. Once you have established certain things, once you have established that inner peace, that inner love, that vulnerability, that trust, then you're able to share it with someone else. But if you are not establishing that within, how are you even able to express certain things to other people? So you first have to trust yourself, then you'll be able to expand your vulnerability and your trust with someone else. I want you to remember this simple fact that trust is something that has to be built over time. That especially is very important with you as a person, with you as an individual, and then when you're in a relationship with someone else, because that trust is what is going to hold that foundation solid. Despite what storms happen, despite when difficulties happen, despite what pains and anxieties and situations, as long as you have that trust as a solid foundation within your foundation, you know, that is going to be able to hold you accountable not only for yourself but with your significant other. Now, there's other things in the foundation. You know, I might make a whole series about foundations, but foundations have a lot of things. Love is part of a foundation. Trust is part of a foundation. Vulnerability is part of a foundation. Peace is part of a foundation. Communication is part of a foundation. All these things are foundational pieces in your relationships. But if you don't have trust, you don't have vulnerability, that foundation is kind of wobbly. It's kind of wobbly. So if something hits that foundation and surprises you because of that foundation, things are going to fall apart. Not right away, but it will slowly fall apart. Just like this, if you are in a situation with someone and they start doing questionable things and you realize that those questionable things are triggering you and it's starting to hurt you, would you want to stay in that relationship? No. But if you took the time to build that foundation of trust and then eventually vulnerability, you'll be able to, hey, what's going on? Hey, I feel this kind of way. Hey, I don't think what you're doing is something that I'm happy with. Hey, I wish that you would communicate with me more. These conversations will be able to be created and cultivated for you to continue to build up on those foundations to have a solid, strong relationship. Simple as that. So, if you're looking at me, you're asking me, well, why is trust so important in relationships? Trust is so important in relationships because you need to have value in your relationships. You need to have substance in your relationships. Trust and vulnerability are part of a relationship foundationally. And if you don't have trust and vulnerability in your foundation, it's gonna crumble. Slowly but surely, it's gonna crumble. And if you really want the relationship to last, you have to learn how to build trust and be vulnerable in your relationships. Simple as that. So if you're looking at me and you're asking me, well, why is trust so important? Trust is so important because you have to realize that trust is part of the foundation in any relationship. If you don't have trust in your relationships and you decide not to be vulnerable, that relationship will crumble and it will not have substance because you decided to hold back in your relationships. But a relationship is all about you being free. Choose to be free, learn to build trust, learn to be vulnerable, and see how your relationships will grow. Simple as that. So, if you're struggling, message me, www.yourcolabcoach.com. Fill out that free relationship checklist. Also, sign up for that free 15-minute coaching session so we can talk about more things about you and to see if we're a good fit for each other. Facebook Collab Coaching, Instagram Collab Coaching, all my series and all my videos are on YouTube, COLAB Coaching. Finally, I created a wonderful, wonderful book, Fresh Eyes Solve Problems Easier, the Self-Love Relationship Project. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. I did an audiobook. It's on Audible. It's also on Dorrance Publishing. This is the publisher that made this book possible. Also, Lantern Audio, the place that I was there to do the audio version of the book. Share this with anyone. Buy it. Write a review. Tell me what you think. And thank you so much in advance. And thank you for listening and watching this video and sharing this video. Have a wonderful day and be safe out there. Bye.